Well, hello, everybody. Glad to see there's some people here today because the weather, at least it isn't snow. So today we're going to continue our association with Curtis Institute. We have the trio Zimbalist that was named after Ephraim Zimbalist, world-famous violinist who taught there for 40 years. And it's interesting that so far, every one of our concerts has featured somebody that either teaches or graduated from Curtis. The next one does as well. And today I'm only going to present some salient points to the music being played. And since this is my last lecture for this season, I've got something very special planned for the second part of the talk. So I'll just give you enough so that you can give you an understanding of what's being played. Oh, I guess I've turned it on. Yeah. All right. Helps. The first piece is by Lara Auerbach. To date, she's composed a lot of music. She's composed 2 operas, 4 symphonies, numerous concertos, 9 string quartets, and 5 piano trios. And she's also a poet, a concert pianist, and a visual artist. This is one of her sculptures. Very talented woman. She was born in Chelyabinsk in Russia and defected in 1991 while she was on a concert tour here. And she stayed in New York and went to the Juilliard School, Manhattan School and Juilliard School, where she earned degrees in composition and piano from Juilliard. So today we're going to hear her piano trio number 1, composed 92 to 96. The first movement, the prelude, is short. It's only 1.5 minutes long, but it contains some very interesting string techniques. You'll hear the strange sounds, kind of wiry and like that, but what it's called is sul ponticello. If you're Italian, you know that means on the bridge. So what happens is you're told to bow closer to the bridge than you normally would, and that produces this strange sound. And you're going to hear some other strange sounds too. I don't think you've heard seagulls in any of our concerts yet. Well, maybe outside. And helicopters, we've heard helicopters, but not seagulls. The second movement's slow and pensive, and it's over top of a piano ostinato. An ostinato is a repeated motive. It repeats the whole way through. And ostinato means stubborn in Italian. It's where we get the name obstinate, the word obstinate. So I'm going to play you a section and listen to the piano. That piano part repeats the whole way through the movement. The third movement's very energetic and has a dreamlike section in the middle with more of this ponticello effects, and then a repeat of the energy of the beginning of the movement. So I'm going to move quickly ahead to the Dvorak. Now, we had a lot of Dvorak this year, haven't we? This is his trio number 4, Dumki. That's a funny word for English speakers. It doesn't really indicate any reduced intellectual properties. It's a Ukrainian word, and Dumki is plural of Dumka, and it is a Ukrainian ballad, specifically a song or a lament, interspersed with more lively sections. And Dvorak used this form a lot, and one of the more famous ones is from his Slavonic dance number 2. Now you hear it goes slow and it goes fast, and those fast, slow repeats through all the dumkis. Now this trio isn't in our normal, what you would see, a fast movement, a slow movement, a minuet, and another fast movement. Each movement is a dumki. So they all have kind of this same form of playing a lament followed by a faster section and back and forth. So here is one of a section of the 5th movement. Now, this is one of Dvorak's more famous pieces, and last month we heard another of his more famous pieces, the American String Quartet. Now I want to go ahead to the Weinberg, Mieczysław Weinberg. Born in Poland in 1919, born in Warsaw. He went to the Warsaw Conservatory, and while he was there in 1938, he was introduced to Josef Hoffmann, world-famous pianist, who heard him play, heard some of his compositions, and actually offered to bring Weinberg to study at Curtis. But unfortunately, for many, the Germans invaded Poland in 1939, and that put a stop to that. And so he fled east. He ended up in Minsk at the Minsk Conservatory. And then in 1941, Germany invaded Russia. So he fled again to, ended up in Tashkent, which is in present-day Uzbekistan. Composed a lot of music when he was there. 2 violin sonatas, some string quartets, and the First Symphony, which incidentally was not premiered until 1967. And luckily for him, he was exempt from military service because of health reasons. But during this time, he discovered the music of Shostakovich, which he said was like discovering a new continent. It was just so earth-shaking to him. Then during the siege of Leningrad, the whole faculty from the Leningrad Conservatory was moved to Tashkent. And there he met a colleague of Shostakovich. This colleague sent some music of Weinberg to Shostakovich, and Shostakovich was very impressed and invited him to come to Moscow, where he finally met Shostakovich. And that friendship developed into something very close until Shostakovich's death in 1975. So it was during this period, in 1945, just before the end of the war, that he wrote the trio from today. It's At its premiere, it was generally received positively, but there was insinuations about its dependency on wartime imagery. And you can say the same thing about Shostakovich's music from this period. And it's interesting that much of his energies following the war were dedicated to music for films, cartoons, and the circus. The Soviet government thought that the circus was only secondary in importance to the film industry. In the 1960s, he became very prolific and composed a lot of music. And toward the end of his life, he was housebound for 3 years because of health reasons. He had virtually no international recognition during his time in Russia. Shostakovich had people of influence that knew his music abroad. Prokofiev did also, but he didn't. Weinberg didn't. So he's been considered the third great Soviet composer, along with Prokofiev and Shostakovich, but he didn't have any international friends. He wrote 22 symphonies, 4 chamber symphonies, 2 sinfoniettas, violin concertos, 17 string quartets, 8 violin sonatas, 24 preludes for cello, 6 cello sonatas, 4 viola sonatas, 6 piano sonatas, as well as 40 film and cartoon scores. His style has been described as modern yet accessible. And you can hear the criticism of his wartime imagery in his music. But like I said, Shostakovich is the same way. And he has the ability to take a piece, a motive, and ratchet up the intensity and sustain it over a long period. And even in times when there's times of repose, there's always something sinister lurking in the background. So here's an example of this intensity that he can conjure up. Here's an example of the thing that I called repose, where you have something that's very calm, but it doesn't stay that way. You can hear the strings sneak in toward the end of it and just take over again. He does this same thing at the very end. And I'll play you the end. Even though it ends on a major chord, it almost doesn't sound like a major chord because everything is spaced so widely. You have the strings way up high and the piano on the bottom. And there's something unsettling about that. It doesn't resolve the way you would think it or the way you would want it to. But there's no denying the emotional content of this music. So now for something completely different. I thought, since this would be my last one this year, we'd have a little fun. And so we're going to play a game. And the name of that game is Composer or Pasta. I'm going to show you a name, and you have to raise your hand if you think it's a composer or if it's a pasta. So we'll start off with some easy ones, okay? Composer? All right. Pasta? Anyone? Okay. Gioacchino Rossini. Died in 1868. Name a famous piece by Rossini. Barbara of Seville. Come on, there's one more famous than that. William Tell, all right. And he was born on Leap Day, so on Thursday he would be 58 years old. Okay, next. Composer? Pasta? All right, good. Now, rigatoni, the word comes from the word rigare, that means to line or furrow. And I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, it has lines and furrows on there. And that's so if you see any pasta that says rigate, that means it has lines on it. Okay, moving on. So that was easy, right? Just wait. Composer? Pasta? It means flower. Fiore means flower. Next, Frontini. Frontini, composer. Right. Pasta. Francesco Paolo Frontini died in 1939, mostly vocal and choral music. Next, Peachy. Peachy. Composer. Pasta. All right. It means from appicciare to stick, so I think they kind of have a tendency to stick together. Very thin, long, and hand-rolled. Next, Piccini. Composer? Some of you are hedging your bets. Pasta. Niccolo Piccini. He died in 1800. Somewhat obscure today, but during his time he was one of the most popular composers in France. Next, Pacini. Pacini, composer. Pasta. Giovanni Pacini. Died in 1867 and wrote 74 operas. Next, Capellini. Oh, yeah, that's fine. Composer, anyone? No? All right, pasta, all right. Yeah. It means actually thin hair. We call it angel hair. Next, Garganelli. All right, composer. Pasta. Not too many pastas. Oh, we have one here. Yeah, and another. You're right. It means esophagus. And you can tell, it looks as its ridges like an esophagus. I probably was where we get our name to gargle. Next, Rutini. Composer. Pasta. Died in 1797, and his claim to fame is he was the piano teacher of Catherine the Great. Next, Pizzi. Pizzi. Composer. Pasta. I see some of you aren't voting. Died in 1940, opera and vocal composer. So that was Pizzi's. Next is Pizzetti. Composer. What's this mean? You could go both ways. Right? All right, pasta. Ildebrando Pizzetti. He was one of the first Italian composers in a long time whose primary contributions were not in opera. Next, Orecchiette. Do I have to ask this one? Anybody think it's a composer? No, okay. Little ears. Mafalda. Mafalda. Composer. Pasta. You're right. It was named in honor of the birth of Princess Mafalda of Savoy in 1902. Savoy is the northwest corner of Italy next to Switzerland and France. So remember that name. Pay attention to that name, Mafalda. It's going to come up later. Okay. That's her. That's Princess Mafalda Maria Elisabetta Anna Romana of Savoy. That was probably taken in the 20s. She was born in 1902. Next. Composer. Pasta. Composer. And a drink. There's your recipe if you... Next, Menotti. Composer. Pasta. Giancarlo Menotti. Name a piece by Menotti. I'm all in the Night Visitors. Very good. Next, Gigli. Gigli. Composer. Pasta. Now you see, it says Bronze dye pasta. What does that mean? I don't know if you can see it, but it's kind of a rough surface. What the pasta is extruded through bronze dyes that cut the pasta, and it will make the surface rough. What that does, I have a little cooking class now, is that it'll put more starches into the water, and so when you make your sauce, you have more starch, you have a thicker sauce. And also the sauce sticks to it better. Di Cecco pasta is die cut. Ronzoni is not. It's cut with Teflon dyes, so it's very smooth. The surface is very smooth, so you won't get the same effect. And somebody over here said something about a singer. Yeah, he was. Yeah, famous tenor, died in 1957, one of the greatest tenors of his generation. Let's hear a little bit of Mr. E.
Ma il mio mistero è chiuso in me, e le nove mio nessun sapranno, sarà solo tua volontà.
Anybody know what that was? Nessun dorma. Turandot. Next, Bucatini. Composer? Pasta? Yeah, it means little holes, pierced. Next, Trecciani. Composer? Pasta? Oh, you're right. It means braids. Ferrazzuoli. See, this is easy, isn't it? Yeah, this is easy, yeah. Ferrazzuoli. Composer. Pasta? Easy. That's a gimme. All right. That's a gimme. Died in 1825, one of the most influential composers of the classical period. He taught Liszt, Schubert, Beethoven, Hummel, and one of Mozart's children. Ponchielli. Composer? Pasta? Amilcare Ponchielli. Name a piece. I heard a piece down here. Dance of the Hours from La Gioconda. Even if you don't know you'll know the piece. Now, does the name Alan Sherman ring a bell?
Hello, mother. Hello, father. Here I am at Camp Granada.
Casarecce. Casarecce. Composer. A lot of undetermined. Pasta? Sagnarelli. Composer. Pasta? Rectangular ribbons with fluted edges, typically served with a cream sauce. Getting hungry. Respighi. Anybody say pasta? I don't know. The Pines of Rome, Fountains of Rome. Rotelli. Here we go. Strozzapreti. Strozzapreti. Composer. Pasta? It means strangled priests. Strangled priests. There's a story to that. Yeah, I couldn't find anything that told me what that was. So Windows has this little app down in the corner that's supposed to be AI, artificial intelligence. Do all these fancy things. So I just typed it in there. I said, what does strozzo pretti mean? And it came back with this big long thing in about 3 seconds. I couldn't believe it. Here, this is what it said. The name strozzo pretti has a fascinating origin. In Italian, strozza means to choke, and preti means priests. Pasta shapes are included in the list of the most ancient pastas alongside lasagne, vermicelli, spaghetti, macaroni, gnocchi, tortellini, and mafalda. But when did mafalda start? In 1902. And here AI is telling me it's an ancient, do not believe the stuff that comes back. It's horrifying. Just do not believe it. Okay, moving on. Strozzi. Not strozza, strozzi. Pasta. Or composer, I'm sorry. Composer. Pasta. Barbara Strozzi. She had more secular music in print than any other composer of the era. She died in 1677. Vermicelli? Right. Little Worms. Pinotini. Composer? Pasta? Maria Teresa Agnesi Pinotini. Died in 1795. The majority of her surviving compositions were for keyboard and voice. It says, while often technically challenging, they are said to have been somewhat hackneyed and not distinctive. Poor girl. Romitelli, composer. Pasta. He died in 2004. He specialized in avant-garde and acoustical music. All right, I had to put something easy in, all right? Puccini. Died in 1924. Tortelli. Composer? Pasta? Means little pies. I think they're smaller than ravioli. Ravioli are a little bigger. Corsetti. Composer. Pasta. They're like little coins and named after a 14th century coin. Petrassi. Composer? Pasta. One of the most influential Italian composers of the 20th century. Mascitti. Mascitti, composer. Pasta. Michele Mascitti, violinist, composer, settled in Paris, died in 1760. We're getting toward the end. Pacchieri. Composer? Pasta. It's funny. It's from Neapolitan paccaria, which means slaps. The name has been ascribed to the slapping sound they may make when eaten. You could say that of any pasta, couldn't you? Elicoidale. Composer? Pasta. The word elica is for helix or spiral in Italian, and you can see they're not straight. They're in a helical, it's extruded in a helical form. Morricone, composer, yeah. Pasta. Ennio Morricone, famous film composer, and composed this. What was that from? Good, Bad, and the Ugly. Right. Okay, last, Mazzocchi. Mazzocchi. Composer? Pasta? Okay. There are two of them, Domenico and Virgilio. They both composed, they died in the mid-1650s. They composed for the Vatican of vocal music. But I couldn't find any pictures of either of the Mazzoccis. So I'm going to show you a picture of my favorite Mazzoccis. That's my daughter and her husband. They live in Mantova, Italy. So I hope you've had fun with this. I had fun putting it together. And thank you. And I'll see you again next season. Thank you.